All right, welcome everyone. Hello, welcome to a new edition of Conversations Across Generations. This month we are exploring the power of global connection and thinking about how young people are leading across borders, building solutions, and starting to redefine what global collaboration looks like in real time. My name is Greg Spear. I am an assistant director at the Stevens Initiative here at the Aspen Institute's Center for Rising Generations. And I am joined here today by three outstanding young leaders, Mohammed, Ben, and Leila. So glad to have you guys here. And in typical Stevens Initiative fashion, we are having this conversation across four different time zones. Um, Technology is an absolutely wonderful thing. Um, let's get into it. Maybe to get us started, I would like for you each to quickly introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, and if you're up for it, share one formative moment from an intercultural exchange experience that you carry with you. Who would like to start?
I can go first. Can jump right in. Hi, everyone. My name is Leila Moassessi. I'm based in Reno, Nevada. I'm a communications professional working at the intersection of public engagement and national security. Currently, the director of communications for a nonprofit, nonpartisan educational organization focused on national security, where I help translate complex security issues into accessible programming and dialogue. Simultaneously, I'm also doing a fellowship with the J. Christopher Stevens Initiative, and we'll actually be heading to Morocco in a couple days for our leadership training. So very excited for that and very grateful. And I guess I could share a brief experience that I had actually in my fellowship that's been really formative recently, where I was interacting with a peer from Egypt, and we were just talking about how important the Stevens Initiative has been to our growth, both as people and both as professional or as a professional as well. And my peer had mentioned how important it was for him to feel recognized that he was bringing something to the exchange program and that his country was representing something. And it really stopped and made me think about, what are we doing in this exchange program and what are we trying to do and how are we trying to shape the world and what does each person bring to the table? And so now I think every time that I go to work and every time that I do things with my fellowship, I think that, every person has something important to bring and their country represents something important. They have something important to share. So just keep that in mind with everything that you do and the way that you interact with people.
You, Leila. It was really beautiful.
Thank you.
Also very excited for you and the upcoming Morocco workshop. I know a lot of work has gone into that, and it's going to be really great. Mohammed, would you like to go next?
Hi everyone, my name is Mohammed. I am from Iraqi Kurdistan. I have a background in engineering and I have worked on humanitarian projects and currently working on environmental projects. And I'm also working on starting a business with like currently in the startup stage. And one thing that I have learned from like the exchange programs is that young people, no matter where they're from, and they're always like sharing lots of similarities, and that has made me to think more globally. And yeah,
And then I can close off. So my name is Ben Hokenson. I studied international and public affairs and entrepreneurship at Brown University, where I graduated in 2025. And now I'm based in El Paso, Texas, where I have a few roles. So primarily I do venture capital investing directly into startups. I also support a family office with investing into fund managers that also then invest into startups. And I'm a freelance consultant for University of Texas, El Paso, a few other universities as well, and continue traveling as much as I can when I'm able to. When it comes to global exchange, I've been very passionate about cultivating that in my life and for those around me, specifically my peers in university and in El Paso now. So one experience that comes to mind would be when I organized a trip to Japan with Brown University. So we brought 11 students ranging from first year to PhD level. And the goal of the trip was to spend time in Tokyo and Kyoto, getting to know local entrepreneurs and investors. only one other person had been to Japan before this excursion. And then within a year after that trip, 8 of the 11 people had gone back, and a bunch of people had been inspired to do significant things with their pursuits, such as studying, working, or even doing research and writing their thesis about something in Japan. So it was pretty incredible seeing how eye-opening that experience was for people. And when you facilitate the right exposure, you can change a lot of life experiences.
Thank you all so much. And this is a really good reminder of not just the power of global exchange opportunities for young people, but also just the diversity of the different outcomes. And so we'll kind of get into a little bit of that. I want to start with a question about technology and how it's kind of changing the way people can connect and collaborate. Um, so I am representing the older generations in this conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and really date myself here with this reference. When I was first traveling abroad as a college student, there was a brand new internet-based video platform called Skype. And I remember it was an absolute game changer for me and for my peers. Um, I don't expect that any of you have any of you actually used Skype? You've heard of it though? I think it's been gone for a while.
When I was
So things have
little,
obviously. Sorry, Ben. What were you gonna say?
when I was little, I used Skype.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Things have obviously changed a lot, and there's all kinds of ways to not only connect, but to collaborate with peers abroad. And so I'm just wondering, in each of your experiences, how are young people connecting and collaborating globally today?
Yeah, I think technology has really changed the game for young people to get connected, and it has made it much easier. And the connections happens in lots of ways. Like there is online communities, online classes, whether it's like online university or fellowship programs, and even not just that, like in lots of other like social medias. Like if you, for example, see on YouTube, if there is a video, educational video, you can go down to the comments. You can all see that there is all types of communication happening. And this is one way of how people get connected, but there is lots of other ways, like the fact that we are currently having this communication that wouldn't have been possible just like 20 years ago or a bit further. So yes, it has definitely changed in lots of ways, and the best thing is to make sure that we are getting the best out of this technology and using it for good.
Hmm. Yeah. Any other thoughts on what Mohammed just said?
Yeah, I'd love to jump in. I definitely agree with everything Mohammed said. And I think, interestingly enough, too, students and youth and young folk are really trying to tap into different resources that they used back then, right? I'm subscribed to so many newsletters that my friends and a lot of my peers use to communicate with people through email. And we see different platforms having, chats where students and young people and young folk, I feel like when I say that, that makes me sound old, but that's how they're connecting. So I think technology has made things a lot more accessible, and there's different translation features. So now it's a lot easier for people to connect and not have to take all that time trying to screenshot and get it translated. So there's really unique ways that people are connecting through Substacks and through newsletters and through different types of chats. And I think in the same breath, we're also kind of taking it back a little bit, and we're looking at airplane mode events and things where people are connecting online and then they're getting together and they're like, okay, we're putting our phones down, we're putting the technology down, and we're just going to do human to human connection. So I think it goes both ways, but I think the Skype and I feel like Skype has to still be around, right? It kind of just died off. And Skype, Zoom, Google Meets, it's all made everything accessible. And we're really, like Mohammed was saying, we're really using it to its full capability.
Then I
Go
would
ahead.
add as well, I think just from like a practical perspective, there are a couple tools that exist now that I don't think really existed as much back during when Skype was in its peak. So I'm just thinking about WhatsApp and platforms like, I think it depends on what you're going for, but if we're talking professionally, LinkedIn, if we're talking about content creation like Instagram, I think people all people now, but if we're focused on youth, especially people who are very much like digitally adapted, anyone can be connected to each other. So I grew up in Mexico for a while and have spent a lot of time living internationally. And internationally, most people do use WhatsApp. So kind of anywhere I am in any city in the world, I can always get someone's contact really quickly and like easily keep in touch with them. And then I feel platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn allow people who are young to cultivate a story and a brand around themselves. So I've spent since like my freshman year in college posting consistently on LinkedIn, and now I'll go to conferences like all over the US, and occasionally, more often than not, someone will mention a post that I made recently, and it's just cool that people all around the world can know what I'm up to and I can share it with them. And I think there's important stuff to consider, like, what are you sharing and what sort of message are you trying to portray? Of course, there's also negative aspects to it, like mental health and trying to show the best version of yourself when maybe that's not reality. But I think at the same time, it's extremely helpful for creating more global connection, these sorts of tools that I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with all of this. It's been interesting to watch this develop over the course of in my professional life, a few decades. Um, One thing you guys are touching on that I actually find interesting as well is technology and kind of globalization seem to kind of have this mutually reinforcing effect on each other, if that makes sense. But I also noticed that technology has the ability to really homogenize. And so it starts to blend as to whether this experience that you're having is more global or just or more digital. And sometimes those two things are separate and sometimes they kind of bleed together. Um, that is just a off the cuff kind of response to some of the things you guys are saying. I want to talk about, so double clicking on the international experiences that you all have had, both through the Stevens Initiative and in other places. I wanted to ask you all about the impact of those experiences on your development as young adults and as young leaders broadly. And I'm coming at this from someone, again, who has spent 15 plus years of my career kind of working in the exchange space, primarily in university settings. And so there's been so much research produced during that time that points to a really wide range of positive outcomes for young people. And it's been kind of interesting to see the field kind of attach itself to different things that feel very important at that particular moment. So everything from higher graduation rates, workforce readiness, soft skill development that are really important to like today's employers, all kinds of stuff. Um, we don't hear a lot about leadership formation in that research. And so I'm just curious to get your takes on how have like the skills and the competencies that you've developed through global exchange, or even just like the relationships that you built with peers in other countries, how have those played a role in your leadership journeys? That's a big question, so I apologize. You can pick up on whatever part of that thread you want to pick up on.
Well, one thing that I learned through those exchange programs is that leadership is not just some technical skills and knowledge, but it also comes to with communication and understanding others, so cultures and working with a team really. So, and also that leadership is not just someone with authority over, like a leader is not someone with authority over a group of people. Instead, it's a part of the team, someone who leads the group and works side by side and listens to perspectives of the all the team members with all following a specific goal and to carry out a project together with a team.
If I could jump in, I think I would rewind a little bit. And I think at the forefront of everything for me is I studied diplomacy and world affairs in college. And that helped me understand international systems, theory, everything that you gain in the classroom, right? But the exchanges that I've experienced have actually made those theories and those concepts come to life, and they've made them feel more real and more human. And so I think, international exchanges have been incredibly informative in my journey as an academic and as a professional because it took all of these concepts and ideas that I had learned and really gave it that human touch. And of course, these experiences have helped me become, more adaptable, a better communicator, and more aware of how different communities experience global issues in different ways. And as a leader, I definitely agree with everything that Mohammed has said. Um, it's been incredibly impactful to build relationships with other leaders across the globe so I can bounce ideas off of them or say, hey, I'm having this issue at work or I'm having this issue with my team. Can you just give me some guidance on what you would do in this situation? Or how are you, you know, re-energizing your team or handling different things as they arise? And so it's really helped shape me into a person that is constantly reflecting and constantly engaging in reciprocity through storytelling and authenticity. And that I think is what shaped me into the leader that I am today and that I'm continuously evolving to be. But international exchanges have really conveyed the theme that, diplomacy and international affairs and policy, all of that isn't just something that's happening out there far away and that big people are doing and they're making all these changes and I'm just like the tiny fish in the big pond, right? Like it's really made me feel like, no, I'm a part of this and that international exchanges and interacting with people across the globe is accessible and it is possible, and that I can impact my community and build relationships that help me become a better leader and just help me understand the world a little bit better.
Hmm. Wow. Love it. Um, I want to maybe double click on something you're saying in this, Layla, which has to do with the relationship between global exchange experiences, not just general competencies or, general career preparedness, but global exchange actually acting as a very important on-ramp into certain career paths. And so I'm hearing that a lot in your last response. So I'm wondering if there's anything like how did a global exchange experience influence your decision to go into that career path, or had you already kind of decided that was an interest and it just kind of accelerated it or helped prepare you for it better?
I would say it definitely helped me prepare for it better. I always knew that I wanted to go into international affairs and national security just kind of it stuck when I was working on a US international exchange program with Algeria and the concept of, why is the US interacting with other countries? What are some of the kind of more um, background themes in these relationships? And so then I kind of arrived at national security and diplomacy. And I hit this point actually last year in the fall, right when I got accepted into the Fellowship Academy with the Stevens Initiative, where I was like, do I really want to go into national security? We know the rep that it has. We know a lot of the people that are impacted by national security initiatives. And what am I doing in the mix of all of this? What is my goal? And simultaneously got accepted as a fellow. And then I started to reflect on what I really want to do is just build relationships and give people the ability to change the world into what they want it to be. Right. And take these complex issues that as youth we're often told, oh no, you're not ready for that, or oh no, that's hidden behind a wall. You're not ready to talk about that or make the change. And I want to be the person that helps make that accessible for people. And so I really fell back onto my international exchange experiences, especially with the Stevens Initiative, and thought about the relationships that I've made and what they've meant to me. And that's how I kind of arrived at, okay, I still want to pursue national security, but I also want to be in a position where I make it accessible and I make it something that's shared with people and public and that people can learn about it and learn how, it impacts them and how we can mend it to help us build better relationships with those around us. So very long-winded, but hopefully answered your question.
No, I mean that was beautiful because it is sort of it's going beyond this set me up for success in like a very narrow kind of career-minded way and kind of incorporating, I think, true leadership as kind of you're saying. I want to turn to Mohammed and Ben also. Mohammed, you mentioned that you are in the kind of early stages of starting a business. And Ben, I know that you also have a whole range of different entrepreneurship ventures that you've been involved in. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the any relationship that you see in terms of the kinds of attributes that global education, global experiences can provide, and how that might overlap with the traits and attributes that make for a success in entrepreneurship. And I'm thinking of things like tolerance of ambiguity, risk-taking, problem solving, like all things that y'all have to kind of be doing on a day-to-day basis in entrepreneurship. So yeah, talk to me a little bit about like, is there anything from your cross-cultural background that makes you a better entrepreneur and maybe even vice versa?
Yeah, for me, absolutely. Like pretty much in all exchange programs that I've been to, there's always some sort of studying of how to start your own business, how to make a project, like from A to Z, there's all the steps. So this has definitely helped me to do this. And not just that, also the connections you get, like the other fellows you meet, whether they're from your community or internationally. Like even within the that I'm currently working on building a business, and with that one I'm also getting helps not just from like locally but also from the fellows that are from like US, that currently with this one I'm working on the project with someone from there, and it definitely has helped me with these things, and also like lots of techniques of how to work on projects that I've learned from the exchange programs. For example, one of them, that like mind mapping. I always knew it was a thing, and but I was really not using it until in one of the projects, like we were kind of like forced to use it to do the tasks. So through that, like I kind of got learned like this is really useful. So even now, like from my current job, I use it always for, um, to prioritize the deadlines, the projects, to see more in a visual way. And so, yeah, there is lots of things that we have learned from the exchange programs that I'm currently using in both my job and the business that I'm building.
Then for me, I would say definitely when we're talking about risk taking and problem solving, spending time in new environments for sure has a great impact in your ability to do that on just a day-to-day basis. But for me, the most remarkable difference I've seen come via global exchange and experience that I've had would be in my ability to connect interpersonally with people. So, just to give some context, I've really made a point to become a globally oriented person. So, when I was not enrolled in school or actively on campus, I would travel and live different places as much as I could. So, at this point, I've been to 38 countries, 6 continents. I've lived in several different countries. So, what I find that that does for me in my current entrepreneurial activities, which is mostly like consulting at this point, is it allows me to genuinely relate to all of my stakeholders so much more meaningfully. So, like I teach at University of Texas about entrepreneurship. Some of my students are they're from Mexico, some of them are from India, some of them are from the US. I've been to all of those places, lived in 2 of those places. I speak English and Spanish. So like I can truly connect and relate and understand the context that a lot of people are coming from much more than I would be able to if I hadn't had this experience. And on top of that, I've worked directly with students from over 60 countries. So that also has just compounded all this effect that I'm talking about. And then I
Hmm.
can sell to people better, resonate better, all that.
Yeah. I want to actually push you on this a little bit. Ben, do you think that the ability to relate better and more broadly to different stakeholders, as you mentioned, is because you are more likely to have been exposed to a little bit of their culture or kind of be better to see through their worldview? Or is it that you're better able to kind of pinpoint the commonality across that kind of shared human experience? Maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe I'm just editorializing what you
I
said.
I do think it is a little bit of both because like
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna, if I can talk to someone from Ghana about how my mom lives in Kumasi and I've like spent time there and all that, like I'm gonna make a much closer friendship much more instantaneously that will lead to deeper, more genuine exchange of just like information in general or whatever that else leads to. But then at the same time, I I have been to all these different places and I have seen how people act super similarly all over the world, and like there's a lot of shared mindsets or ambitions or goals that people have. A lot of context is different, like resources are different all across the world, levels of community, like cultures, all that. But yeah, there's a lot that we have in common. So I feel like I can lean into that more, having actually seen it for myself.
Hmm. Um, every single one of these questions, I think we could unpack into a whole discussion. Two more quick ones because I know they're going to probably cut us for time at some point. Thinking about kind of the future of global education, the kinds of leaders that we need to be forming, what do you, how should I phrase this? What do institutions like the Aspen Institute or like universities and the adults that kind of man those institutions, what do they need to understand to make these programs um, better positioned for young people who are kind of ready to lead right now and into the future?
Is it
I
okay?
think globalization. Yeah, I think
It's okay. You can
Layla, why
go if
don't you
you want.
start?
Okay.
Layla, you start, and then
Um,
Mohammed.
I'll just make it quick, but I think the Aspen Institute is already doing this, but I think they need to understand that the youth are looking for meaningful and authentic relationships. I think we're kind of past a little bit of that. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear. Mohammed, do you want to go and do you mind cutting? Because my dog's barking in the background. I'm sorry.
we don't hear
Okay,
it.
we'll edit it.
Okay.
Go ahead,
All
Mohammed.
right. So yeah, for me, I think globalization is quite important, especially for like someone like me growing up in like a small town. Up until 2020, I had even like never met or like talked to someone from outside of my country in person. I mean, through those exchange programs that I got connected with people from all over the world, like starting in 2022 with a virtual exchange program, then later on in person in Jordan with Stevens Initiative, and then in the US, and later in um, Poland, and recently in Madrid, Spain for City Lab that was happening just a couple of weeks ago. So I think globalization is quite important when it comes to like exchanging the cultures because it really helps you to see things from different perspectives. And institution like global institutions, it's good for them to really focus on things like young people really wanted to be connected in more ways that has engagements, and that everyone wants to see the impacts of whatever they are working on, not just like set of theoretical things, more of hands in and like practically. So those
Yeah.
things I think it's important to be focused on.
Okay, I'll jump back in again. Mohammed, that was beautiful. I definitely concur with everything you said. And yeah, I think youth are looking for authentic and genuine relationships, and they want to gain authentic experiences. And so I think that's important for institutions and people to remember in these programs is that it's not really just about resume building or what can I do just to make myself look better, right? Or look like I'm, engaging with the globe, right? It's about people really want to grow and they want to see what other youth are doing across the globe and how they're making change. So remember that when you're, figuring out your programming and you're thinking about how do we engage the youth. And I think the Aspen Institute, I see on social media all the time, they host these events that are so unique and so broad that they can really touch all sorts of communities. I mean, this airplane mode event, like it really stuck with me. I talk about it all the time because I'm like, wow, that's so, I would have never thought of, having something where we just connect in a space and no technology, nothing like that. We just connect and it's human to human connection. And on the other side, I think the technology is really important, and the institutions need to keep thinking of how can we leverage technology and these different services to make things more accessible for the youth and to make things more interesting for people to connect. But these programs are so important. They're so important. And I've seen it both from the perspective of someone that's participated in them, someone that's helped run exchange programs, especially with the youth. You can see how the long-term impacts really benefit all the parties involved and really help create leaders that want to make change and really create long-term relationships as well. So that's my two
Hmm.
cents.
Thank you, Leila. And shout out to Airplane Mode. That entire concept was developed and pitched and executed on by young people. So that's a good example of how we're trying to not just serve young people, but empower them and kind of be responsive, kind of turn over the reins to them. Um, Ben, do you wanna any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of programs are full of a lot of shaking hands and smiling and nodding, but not much else. And I think the best programs are the ones that actually get you to apply skills or teach you new
Mm,
information. So I really enjoyed my Mismo Cielo program with the Stevens Initiative, for example. Like we talked about our experiences living across the border while also getting to meet acclaimed writers, and that sort of knowledge was really interesting to get exposed to. And it was not at all shaking hands and smiling and nodding. It was all just, discussion on the content. So I like that sort of experience better.
appreciate that. That was very experimental. And yeah, like I told you all a few weeks ago, you were our guinea pigs in trying to understand how cross-cultural connection could be applied in a context where young people are in neighboring border communities. And I thought that turned out to be really powerful. I have one final question for you all. Um, there's a lot of change happening in the world. What is kind of giving you hope right now when you think about global collaboration and impact that young people are making amidst all of that change?
I think this moment right here and all the organizations like the Aspen Institute and Stevens Initiative and the Center for Rising Generations, I think those organizations are what's giving me hope. I think it's really easy to go online and you look at the news and you think, oh my goodness, like what can we do? And then I open social media and it's like, oh, the Center for Rising Generations just posted. And it's, highlighting someone that's done something really cool and highlighting how there's still people out there who really care about diplomacy and care about building those relationships and understand that, change comes from us interacting and transcending across borders to share thoughts and to share stories and to share this collective need for making the world what we want it to be. So I think that's what gives me hope is seeing that these institutions and these large bodies really want to build connections amongst the youth and want to empower them in ways that are tailored to us and tailored to the ways that we are receptive to topics and global collaboration. And I think that's what gives me hope. For sure. This moment right here is making me think how lucky I am that I get to meet these wonderful people, and we're hopefully going to, shed some important light on global engagement and global exchanges and how important they are.
You're
Yeah, I also
muted, Greg.
totally agree with what Leila said, and the fact that we have so much opportunities pretty much everywhere, like it has never been this much accessible that anyone can go and study whatever they like, whatever that their goal is, that they can always find a course, a program for it, and there is a lot of places that offer completely free programs, courses, whatever they need, and youth centers are pretty much in every cities nowadays. So these things, I think it really gives me hope that despite the fact that there is lots of political conflicts out there, lots of changing happening, whether it's through AI, that changing happening, whether it's good change or bad change. So those things really give us hope that there is still hope for good changes.
And I would say the hope that I have is contained in the moments that I get to experience when I create those sorts of connecting the dot experiences for people. So knowing people across the world and just having experienced different forms of life, I love when I get to broaden someone's perspective as a in a mentor role. And then that still happens for me every single day when I'm talking to people. So just the boundless knowledge that there is and with the more of it that you have, the better you can connect the dots. And I think that gives me a lot of hope. There's a lot of dots to be connected. You're muted, Greg. We can't hear
How's
you.
that?
There you
Ben, thank you. I think that's a really lovely place to end. I want to just thank you all again, both for taking the time to be in dialogue with each other. As you have pointed out, this act alone is something that can give hope and inspire change. This has also been a really, really great reminder that the future of global leadership is not something that we're waiting on. Y'all are out there doing it, and I just wanted to affirm that we see you, we need you, and I'm looking forward to following you on your respective journeys. And for those at home, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you'll join us next time for another conversation across generations very soon. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Yeah, and just for those who don't know what airplane mode is, it's an initiative here at the Center for Rising Generations to bring young people back to third spaces. It's also something that was designed, pitched, and has been executed completely by young people. So it's something we're really proud of.